not only do you have those email addresses, but they're separated in two categories. One, the person who downloaded a beat for free, and one, a person who actually paid for a beat.
And it's going to say, are you interested in hip hop, pop, R&B? Let's say you have beats across all these different areas. All these different buttons. Have them click on which button they like. That can tag the subscriber with that piece of content. So, hey, they like hip hop. And now all of a sudden, now you're going to send them through another automated series campaigns that just advertises and talks about hip hop beats. So now the one of the keys in email marketing is segmentation.
Let's be honest, you're not gonna find these videos anywhere else. Why? Because I make them. So it would really help me out if you subscribe. If you've already subscribed, what also really helps is if you like the video and leave a comment. It's hard in the era of clickbait videos on YouTube and negativity in the producer community, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. I think a lot of people are sending out emails and that's the end of their process, but they're not necessarily checking to see if their emails are getting bounced. And there were all these, I recently learned about some of these terms in the email marketing industry, like hard bounce versus soft bounce and all that. So I do want to get into that because that's really important stuff. And we have so many options right now with regards to selling a product. And so especially if we're sending out emails that might sometimes contain links to our beat store or a drum kit or something that we're trying to sell. So those are the kinds of emails that often do unfortunately get marked as spam or sent to the wrong folder within somebody's Gmail or whatever. So this is really important for producers who are using the service. But with all the options that we have, why should producers choose email marketing as a central part of their marketing strategy?
That's a great question. That's exactly what I was going to mention, which is you might ask the question of like, well, why use email? I mean, come on, Facebook's out there and Instagram and you pick the social platform. They have some type of an ad strategy on it. And you can definitely use those. And we encourage customers to use those. But what we tell everybody is in those situations, you don't own the data or the information about the customer. What you're doing is you're saying to that platform, I'll pick Facebook, for instance, you're saying, hey, advertise to all these people. Or even when you're in a Facebook community, you're saying, let me post all this information. But as soon as Facebook changes their algorithm, as soon as Facebook decides that your group is no longer meets their guidelines or anything, they own all of it and they shut you down. And we've talked to so many people where an algorithm got changed or a filtering got changed, and all of a sudden a person's audience just completely dried up because you're dependent on them. With Aweber, you're not dependent on us for your audience. You own your audience. We're just storing your emails for you and helping you to send them out, but ultimately they're yours. So, when you come in, if you have existing email addresses, you can bring them in and automatically add them to the system. If, let's say, you were coming from another competitor or you were just getting your list started and you had a couple email addresses to get started, all of that can be brought into our system. And then all we're going to do is make sure that we can get the emails to the inbox. So as far as essentially owning your audience in email world, you own your audience. And so you own that direct communication. So no one's filtering the information that you're sending. We're not sitting there filtering your content. We're just shipping your content to the inbox versus, you're not going to run into a social media issue where they brand your information as harmful or adult or, not true or whatever. You're not having to deal with those. And like I said, those are still great platforms to communicate on. But the great part about the Aweber world is, if all of a sudden you had something happen in Facebook and you got shut down and you had a new beat was just going to go live and you were just going to start selling it, now all of a sudden you can't promote it. Well, everybody who's signed up and who's a part of your email list, you could just straight email them because there is no middleman. It's just we're sending the email right out to the people for you, and you can put whatever content you want in there. So it's a direct communication to your audience. Also, we just recently released web push notification. So I'm not sure if everybody knows what that is, but essentially what that is it's, think of on your phone how you get notifications coming in. It's that version for your browser. And it's a really great thing that is becoming more and more used. And you see it on these screens when you go to websites now, and this little, like, usually something slides down and says, hey, do you want to sign up for notifications? And we've introduced that same concept as well, that you can add to your website. And that's just another great feature, because some of it is, hey, I want to schedule this email to go out to send something out about a beat that I know that's dropping tomorrow. Some of it also might be, something is happening right now. I'm going to do a flash sale. And so I need to email them, or I need to communicate with these people right this second. And so sometimes a web push notification might be a better way to do that, because you could just quickly send that out and it'll come up and it'll pop up on everybody's computer, letting them know that this beat is or this sale just happened. So that's another great way of doing it. So that's the really nice part about email, about the web push solutions, is that you own the audience and you own the direct communication with the audience. So you don't have to worry about there being any kind of middleman. Like I said, all we're trying to do is make sure we get the information to the right place. We're not sitting here content moderating anything or dealing with any of that.
Another really important point, data ownership, customer data ownership specifically. Just understanding that concept changed my life, because I was one of those people who had a really nice Facebook following when, I could post something and reach 50% of my audience. So if I had 30,000 likes on my Facebook page, I could reach 15,000 people. And then with the additional, organic spread, maybe I would reach 100,000 people on certain posts. And then Facebook changed their algorithm, and no longer could I reach even 5% of my audience. And because they were all just Facebook users, I didn't have their emails, I didn't have their phone numbers, I didn't even necessarily have their names. I can't just click export data in Facebook and get access to that information.
Yeah, and think about this for everybody, for anybody who uses Facebook. You go on Facebook and you're looking at your feed and you're seeing things from friends and relatives and again, businesses that you like. Well, who's deciding what shows up on that list? Have you ever had a friend say, hey, did you see that post I dropped? I just put up, and they're like, no, I didn't see it. Well, that's because Facebook's determining what it wants to show you at any one time. And so, like you said, as soon as they make a small change to the algorithm, all of a sudden your business stops showing up on lots and lots of people's page. On their scrolling form. And so ultimately, all of a sudden you're like, well, what happened to all this content? What happened to all these people that were going to my site and seeing all of my content on my business or my page within my fan page within Facebook? And that's also why we have an integration that works directly with Facebook that puts a sign-up form on your page in Facebook that allows people to sign up with their email address. And then you can point people to say, hey, thanks for liking my page, thanks for following, go here and make sure you also sign up, so that you don't lose those people. So if Facebook does do something, again, or Instagram, any of these others do something, that you're not losing those individuals. So you're still getting in that contact mode with them, because if you're not doing that, you don't own the audience. And like I said, at the end of the day, if you join Aweber and for some reason you need to pause for a little while or you need to stop, that data is yours. You can export it. It's yours. We're not we're just storing it for you. So that's very different than social networks. Social networks want to own the data and want to own you. So at the end of the day, we love them. We love all the social networks. But at the end of the day, that's a bit of a difference between us and them.
And I think Beatstars is exceptional because they have the same philosophy. I can go into Beatstars right now and export all of my customer data, whether it's people who bought a beat or downloaded a free promotional beat. I can get direct access to those people. I can import that into Aweber. I can import that into Facebook Business Manager. I can really go in any, and this is maybe a little more advanced than a lot of producers are ready for, creating custom audiences and all that. But when you get to the point where you're going on these platforms to advertise and do paid ads, all of a sudden you're going to really start appreciating that Aweber and that Beatstars gives you access to those customer data as easily importable and exportable CSV files. So that's something I tell this to a lot of producers that I consult with who are just starting out and trying to build their business. I just say, keep this in mind. I'm not saying you need to do this tomorrow, But as you build your list of emails and contacts of either customers or potential customers, know what the goal of this is. This isn't just nice to have because you want to send these people emails, but not having any data in this age puts you at a major disadvantage. And having those data is like getting a running start in a race. So more on that later, but let's pick up on that. So how should producers right now, if they're just starting out, how should they start building their email list? What are some best practices, and what are some bits of advice that you can give people based on your experience?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, one of the things you want to think about is how you want to grow your audience, and then how you want to communicate to that audience as it grows. So growing your audience can be anything from, using that Beatstars integration that's going to add those people over as they purchase. It could also be, if you have a website, just adding a sign up form on your website, which you can grab any one of our sign up forms. We have a lot of integration partners who also have sign up forms. And basically all that's going to do is just give you a place to say, hey, give me your email address and I'll send you weekly or monthly or whatever types of communication you want to send them. And then the last part of that is potentially you might want to do, if you're going to do like a one-off landing page where you're going to create something that's going to drive interest for a specific event or a specific sale or something, you could also ask for the contact information there. As I mentioned on Facebook, you could ask for the contact information. And really the goal is to, every time you have eyeballs on your content, is giving people a way to find more. Because sometimes you're going to see somebody and they're not going to be interested that time, and not the next time, and not the next time. But the fourth time, they're going to be like, I keep seeing this. This is really awesome. I really want to dig into this, and I want to add myself to it. And so they're going to be looking on the page. They're going to be looking around for, how do I add myself to this content? And so it's just making sure that your ability to let people sign up for your emails is readily available in every type of system you have. And even if it's like in the case of Instagram doesn't give you a lot of ways to add your own content. But one thing you can do is you can provide one overall link to your profile. And so we actually offer the ability to do link trees in our landing pages. So you can have a link there and it gives you a link tree. And if anybody doesn't know what a link tree is, it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's just a series of buttons that you can put on a single web page that links your customers or your viewers out to all the content you have. So one takes them over to Facebook, one takes them over to your Twitter account, one takes them over to Beatstars and all the different things that you have. And so on that page, you can also put a sign-up form. So it's just giving people more and more ways to reach out to you. And so that's the first part, is trying to encourage getting more of an audience. And then you need to think about how you want to curate that audience and really what you're looking to do with it. Sometimes you're looking to just build an audience of people who are interested in what you're doing. Sometimes you're actually looking to sell to them specifically. And that's really going to change exactly what you do. But the really important part is, even in recognizing if you are going to sell, is that you want to make sure that you're providing value to your readers beyond just your selling. And so selling, everyone knows that, the world is revolved around selling. You watch TV, you see a commercial and they're selling you something. And so it's not that we're not used to selling, but what people don't want to do is sit down and watch 24 hours of commercials. They actually want to watch content or see shows that they're interested in. And so that's definitely the important part, is to take something that you have and give back information that's relevant or that is informational, that's helpful, that your audience would be interested in. And then in that, you can layer in information about things that you're trying to sell or maybe even events you're trying to promote. So the big thing we always tell people is, don't go in and get a bunch of people to sign up and immediately just start sending them multiple emails a day with, here are 5 things that I want you to buy. That's the quickest way to get people to unsubscribe from you, because they're not looking to be sold all the time. They're looking for emails where they get valuable content, valuable information. In return, they will accept the opportunity for you to sell to them. And so that's definitely something that I would recommend, as far as if you're looking at what that looks like. Definitely think about that. Also, make sure that you're emailing people on some regular cadence. That cadence is really up to your audience. We have people who email every day. We have people who email every week. We have people who email just once a month. It really just depends on what your audience really is looking for. But you basically want to create some level of cadence of emailing, because you want to make sure that you're keeping your subscribers engaged. Because if you don't keep them engaged, it does 2 things. One, it actually hurts your deliverability to get your emails to the inbox. And then also, if you're not keeping them engaged, there's more of a chance that they're just going to click on subscribe if they didn't get an email from you for 3 months, and then all of a sudden they get a random email and they don't seem to know what that email came from. They may ultimately think, oh, this is spam, or this isn't something I expected. And so then they're just going to delete it. And that really hurts your deliverability. So those are the things that I would really focus on is, ask yourself the question of how am I going to get my subscribers on my list, like how many different ways? And the answer is there's never too many ways to get them. You can, adding more is always really helpful. And then also deciding what you're going to communicate and how often you're going to communicate it. And to clarify that, there's different ways you could do that too. You could send an email out to people, let's say once a week. You could send an email out to once a week where you can create the email and then send it out to your subscribers and they'll get the email. And that works great. We have plenty of people who do that. They create like newsletters and they send them out once a week, and it's really great. Some people look at it and say, I don't really want to invest that kind of time, but how could I still keep my subscribers engaged? And that's where you can actually set up an automated campaign sequence where you set up the emails ahead of time. And then as people sign up to your email list, you set up cadences to say, hey, after they signed up, after 7 days, send them this email. After another 5 days, send them this email. After another 4 days, send them this email. And you pre-set up the emails. And so each person gets the email at a different time based on when they signed up. But the idea is they're getting continuously communicated to. And that wasn't something that you had to do. You just set it up once, and they just get the email based on when they started. And so sometimes it's like a getting started pack. It's a welcome pack. Sometimes it's even a way to drive sales through a sales funnel, because you're going to start communicating. You're going to start talking about something. And then as you get towards the end, you're going to maybe give them like a freebie and then send them a link to your page where they can purchase other beats. So, stuff like that you can do if you don't want to hand curate your audience. It really just depends on what you're trying to do and again, what your goal is. But that's really the important part is how many different ways can I get subscribers onto my email list? And then how often do I want to communicate? And do I want that to be a manual process or do I want that to be an automated process? And there's nothing wrong with any of those. It's just making a decision about what you think your audience is really going to resonate with.
So for a producer who's just starting out with your service, can they start building an email list with Aweber for free to get started?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So we allow people to jump in and get started with Aweber at no charge. We do have a pro plan for people who are interested in upgrading to that, but we understand that as you're getting started, sometimes it's just the process of getting started that you're looking around going, wait, what's this? What should I be doing next? I'm not sure. Where should I be moving? And so there's a lot of questions you're trying to answer all at once. So we're basically looking at it saying, that's not the time for you to open up your wallet and pay us. Take the time, figure out what you need, start to grow your audience, and then look at moving to one of our pro plans or one of the other plans that can help you. One of the big things that's a little bit different about us versus a lot of the other email providers in the industry is that not only do we offer a free option so people can sign up, we don't take your credit card or anything. We just want to get you moving. When you get going and you start having questions right away, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to us over the phone. You can reach out to us over email. You can reach out to us over a chat. We're available 24/7, even to free accounts. So that's really big because, when you're getting started, also, you might not know. We have a lot of things that'll help you because we've already thrown around a lot of different statements about email related things that some people might be saying, that's I don't really know what that is, or I kind of have vaguely heard of that. Like you said, soft bounces or hard bounces and things. And a couple things to recognize is one, as I mentioned, we are always available to answer questions. It doesn't matter if you're paying or not. We want to make you successful. Second, we have a wide variety of knowledge base articles. So actually, if you were to Google right now, just Aweber Beatstars, the first thing that's going to come up is a knowledge base article that tells you how to connect the two together. So we're not looking for you to be an expert on how to do this. We're going to help you guide you through this. We're also going to help guide you through best practices in email, because we know that there's a lot of the little things about email that maybe you don't necessarily know or didn't think about. So simple things like when you're sending out an email, your from address shouldn't really be from a Gmail account or from a Hotmail account or from an Outlook account. Those accounts aren't seen very favorably in the email world. And so we would rather it come from your domain or rather it come from another website. Also, there are requirements on what a good open rate is. Open rate meaning how many people opened up your email that you sent out, and we give recommendations on that. We also give recommendations on things that you create, such as confirmation emails, that we recommend that you turn confirmation on for your emails, because confirmation is basically, they sign up, you send them an email that says, are you sure you want to be on my list? And when they say yes, not only do you get much better deliverability, we see dramatically better deliverability on people who confirm. And on top of that, they're clicking and communicating about your list. So that's also just increasing your deliverability because they're interacting with you. So these are all these things that when you send that email out, there's a chance to put really kind of spammy names in that email providers don't like. And we can help to recommend what's not a good idea to put in there. When it comes to delivering, you get better deliverability if you enable things called DKIM and SPF. Those are just really fancy acronyms, but essentially we can show you how to set those up as well. And that just increases your deliverability a little bit more. And so we have help articles about how to do all of that. And we have a bunch of things directly in our product that guide you about what you should and shouldn't be doing there. And then also just at any time, if you're getting started and you're just not sure what to do next, and you're just saying, okay, well, I got this set up, I got this, should I be creating an email or should I be creating a sequence or whatever, or you're just not sure what to do next with your business, reach out to us. We'd love to chat with our customers. We love to chat with you and just talk shop about your business and talk about what could work and what's the best place to go and what you could be doing to grow your audience.
Well, dang, Zach, you just said a whole lot. I do want to talk about a lot of the concepts that you just covered, sure, such as open rates and so forth. But one thing that really I feel is a game changer that Beatstars started doing was automatically tagging customer contacts based on the action that customer performed on your Beat store. So I encourage, and Mike Trampy also encourages it, when you're starting out, offering some kind of free download on Beats, or maybe all of your Beats are free tagged MP3 downloads or whatever, in exchange for an email, just so you can start building your email list and communicating with potential customers. He recommends that. He knows what he's talking about. I learn all my marketing stuff mostly from him. So once you do that, say someone downloads your Beat for free, Beatstars is automatically going to tag that person as a free download, send that data to Aweber, and Aweber is going to categorize it as a free download. If someone buys a Beat, Beatstars is going to categorize that as a sale and send that data to Aweber as well. So now, not only do you have those email addresses, but they're separated in two categories. One, the person who downloaded a Beat for free, and one, a person who actually paid for a Beat. So given that is now a new feature, what does this mean for email marketing?
Yeah, you mentioned a great thing. So the whole world of tagging is so incredible to interact with, and there's so many options. And a couple of great examples is, we just talked a minute ago about sourcing your subscribers from all these different places where they can sign up. Well, each one of them, you should be tagging where they came from, so that right away you can go into your Aweber account and say, I want to see everybody who signed up from Facebook. I want to see everybody who signed up from right straight from my Beatstars. I want to sign, so you can start to get really great data. But on top of that, there's really cool things that you can do with tagging beyond just bringing the data over. So here's a really simple example. Somebody signs up, and your first welcome email, so the first email they get has, hey, welcome, thank you so much for signing up. What type of beats are you interested in? And it's going to say, are you interested in hip hop, pop, R&B? Let's say you have beats across all these different areas. All these different buttons. You can have them click on which button they like. That can tag the subscriber with that piece of content. So, hey, they like hip hop. And now all of a sudden, now you're going to send them through another automated series campaigns that just advertises and talks about hip hop beats. So now one of the keys in email marketing is segmentation. The further and further and further you can segment your data, the more valuable the content is going to be to that small cohort, that small group of email addresses, because those people know that they want that content. So, you can absolutely just create a welcome series and then say, hey, here's all these different beats, and they might be all over the place. But if you can say, hey, put my hip hop ones over here, put my rock ones over here, now all of a sudden you're pushing people through different campaigns that are just targeting those that specific content. And you could actually even do it the other way. If you have a new beat that you just dropped that you're really interested in, you could send that out as an email and then record who clicks on that link. And by record, I mean tag them with, hey, they just they were interested in this beat. And now all of a sudden that's some people that you can look at and say, oh, you know what, they're really interested. So that's a great segment to send other similar types of beats to them because they were clicked and they were interested in this beat. But then there's the opposite side of that as well, which is I'll send this email out telling everybody that this new beat's available. And I see that I have a 40-50% open rate. That's awesome. 40-50% is great. But 50% didn't open. So you know what you can do? You can create a segment of people who didn't open that email and change the email up a little bit, maybe put a different subject line, see if you can find something else that's going to connect with them better. And you can send out back to those people to see if you can get those individuals to open up. Maybe there's just a better way to communicate that information and get those individuals. So, but again, that's a segment as well. So in email, it's all about segmenting down your data, and segmenting with tags is a great way of doing that, because not only can you segment on tags that come into Aweber, but also within Aweber, within any campaign or within any broadcast email that you send out, like a one-time email, you can say when these links are clicked or when they get to the end of this campaign, apply or remove these tags from what they're doing. And so you can continue to move them around, so you can continue to get more and more heuristics, more and more data about the person, so that you can ultimately say, okay, well, now this person is so segmented down that I know when I send them this email, I'm going to get 50+% open rates, because these guys, I know that these are, guys in their, 20s to 40s, and they have, they're interested in hip hop. And here's, now I know exactly what I'm sending to them. I'm sending them newer stuff or whatever. You can actually really work that down by asking customers questions in your emails, and then simply just by recording what they're clicking on. And also, you can see that within Aweber. So if you go to any specific subscriber, there's an activity window that will show you, that shows you what emails you sent to them, which ones they opened, and what links they clicked on. So you can get a full visual history of what's going on with them and how engaged they are. And then also the opposite. One of the things we always encourage people to do is deliverability is important, meaning that your email gets to the inbox. And one of the things that hurts deliverability is people who just don't open. And, you're always going to have some people who don't open, but people who habitually don't open, there are probably somebody who either you should try to re-engage or you should decide to ultimately remove from your list. Because if you've been emailing them for, let's say, 3 or 6 months and they haven't opened up anything, then they're ultimately hurting your ability to deliver, because the Microsofts and Amazon, I'm sorry, not Amazon, Apple's and the Gmails of the world are going to say, well, geez, you've been sending this guy emails for 6 months and he hasn't opened up any of them. Maybe your content's really not that relevant. And so they're going to start to look poorly on it over time. So that's what we encourage people to say. If you're not getting engagement, it's actually better to have a smaller audience that's really engaged than a bigger audience that isn't engaged, because the bigger audience that's not engaged is actually going to hurt your ability to deliver more frequently, because every time you're sending an email out and people aren't opening it, as I mentioned, the Gmails of the world are sitting there going, that's interesting. They're not opening anything,
Oh, wow. That I didn't know. I wasn't aware that these email services are watching the emails that you send out, and so it's kind of like in a way it's like a social media algorithm, right? Like on Instagram, for example, if I post something 5 times in a row and I don't get any likes or any comments, Instagram's eventually just gonna mark my content as trash and stop showing it to people. So these email services, Hotmail, Outlook, Gmail, are doing the same thing to emails.
Yeah, because ultimately they have to make a decision about what they believe to be spam and what they believe to not be spam. And, essentially, spam is something that you didn't ask for. And so at the end of the day, sometimes you're going to tell them, because sometimes you're just going to go up in the wherever that button is in your email provider and say, this is spam. And sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're just going to say, whatever, delete, because it's just quicker to hit delete than spam. And so they're making a determination. And also, if you think about, if somebody is going to send out an email to, let's say, 1 million people on the internet, and it's clearly spam, they're not going to send that email to 1 million people and then put it into their spam folder. Like you said, they have essentially algorithms that start to see what's going on, and then they'll actually cut off that email and not have it all delivered, because they're ultimately trying to protect their systems, because nobody wants to go to a system that's not relevant. If everybody remembers way back when search engines first started, people moved away from search engines where every time you searched, you were like, well, there's none of this is relevant to what I'm looking for, and so same kind of thing. Nobody wants to be that email provider that you're getting tons and tons of emails that are not relevant and or are spam, that it takes the system too long to find them and mark them as spam. So that's why I mentioned there's, when you're sending an email one-on-one, if I'm sending an email to you, I go into my email, I send it to you, within a couple seconds, you get the email. That kind of email is one-to-one, and pretty much email providers just send those, and there's no real algorithmic system in place, because it's just one-to-one. But anytime you're doing mass mailing and you're trying to be a mass mail provider, there's a number of rules, including the CAN-SPAM Act in the United States, that we have to follow. And then there's other regulations, such as the ones that are in the GDPR rules that are in Europe, that we have to follow as well. And on top of all of that, we have to follow the rules that the different email providers put in place, because they want to make sure they're protecting their systems. And so we handle all of that. We have a whole team at Aweber that just handles the making sure that your emails get delivered.
Okay, so let's talk about that. I want to jump back into open rates, but first, what are some ways to avoid getting your emails flagged as spam? What are some obvious things that you can avoid right away? Some keywords that you can avoid, some subject lines that you can avoid?
Yeah, so there's definitely some things that you can do right away. As far as now there are things that we'll do for you as well to help to make sure that you're not creating damaging things that you do. There's a number of strategies that people do in the industry to try to help email new accounts get up to speed. But so we'll, what I would say is don't worry about those. We'll make sure we tackle all those for you. But as far as, where you can help in that conversation is essentially in a couple things. One, making sure that the people that you're sending an email to actually did sign up for your system. So never purchase leads. That's actually very detrimental to your ability to email, because those people didn't sign up for your email system. They for your content. And so you can email them and some will open, but the problem is you'll get flagged very quickly as sending out spam, because everyone will start marking it as spam, because ultimately they didn't want it in the first place. And so definitely do not actually do that. As far as actually sending out, as I mentioned earlier, making sure that you're sending out with some amount of frequency helps your deliverability, to make sure that you're going out. When you're sending things out to your customers, as I mentioned, not just directly selling, actually communicating with them is going to help as well. The goal is a couple things. When you're sending an email to somebody, you want them to open it, and you don't want them to mark it as spam, and you don't want them to delete it right away. Because all of the email providers not only look to see if you marked it as spam, but they look to see if you read the whole email. They look to see how long you're scrolling and how long you're spending on an email, because they're interested.
Wait a minute, I didn't know they could do that. Really?
Yeah. So they're ultimately looking to see how long you're spending on emails. So, they're interested in, what are you doing? And because again, that's going to help them determine if it's spam or not, because again, you're not always going to tell them it's spam. So really, it's creating content that they want to see. It's creating content that's going to, so, a really simple example is like, we don't recommend people use all caps in their subject line. Sometimes people like to do that because, it stands out and it's bold, and yes, it does stand out. And a lot of people look at it and delete it because it stands out so much. And so there are things like that. There are also a number of just spammy words that we recommend people try to stay away from, just because of, now it's not a hard and fast rule to say never use them, but there's definitely a number of rules that, as far as words that you really want to stay away from, because they're hot button words that are just harder to get through. It's not that they're impossible to get through. But that's definitely, as far as the content goes, is just making sure that you're communicating with some frequency. Again, that could be automated or manual. And then also making sure that you're calling out every once in a while the people who aren't opening anything. And we have a really simple filter in Aweber that just says, I want to see anybody who hasn't opened an email in the last 6 months. And then you can decide to send them a re-engagement email, which when I say that, I just mean an email that you create that just says, hey, haven't seen you in a while. Haven't seen you, haven't heard from you in a little while. Are you still interested in getting these emails? And click this button. And essentially the people who don't, then you essentially just unsubscribe them because they're not helping your deliverability. And then
you're paying for them too.
And you're paying for them, exactly. Yeah, you're paying for them. So at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're getting people who are engaged, because you never know when somebody's going to convert from being a visitor to a purchaser. And so sometimes you hold on to somebody just even though they haven't purchased, because they're engaged and you see, and eventually you're going to find the right thing that's going to turn them into a buyer. But absolutely, if you're having somebody who's not doing anything, you're essentially paying for that person to be on your list. And so paying for a couple isn't a bad thing, because in Aweber we use tiered bands. So you're not paying for every individual subscriber. You're paying for up to 500, up to 1,000. So, you're not dealing with individuals, but you pile up enough of those together, and they could move you into another pricing tier that really isn't helpful to you. So a lot of it's just making sure that you're curating your content, you're providing valuable content to your subscribers that they want, not necessarily what you would think they would want. I mean, one of the simplest ways that we talk about that is just talk to a couple of your people. Here at Aweber, we talk to our customers all the time. Every week we're reaching out and talking to our customers, asking them what's going on, how do you like the product, what would you like different, changed in the system or added to it. And so the idea is we're doing the same. We recommend the same thing for our customers. If you're not sure what to reach out and talk to your subscribers about, ask them, reach out to them, ask them what they'd be interested in, ask them what they're looking for, what kind of content they're looking for out of you, because that really makes a big difference in them thinking that what you're sending out is valuable, because at the end of the day, that's going to make the biggest difference about whether you're getting basic deliverability. And we always recommend, when we mention deliverability, we mention open rates. An open rate, if you want to start at a minimum, I mean, we're talking 20-25% open rates or higher. Like, you should be getting, I know it looks great to get a couple of 5% open rates, and that, that's great. Obviously you did get some people to open, but that is also telling you that if you sent out to 100 people, that means 5 people opened it. So, that's actually not very good when you put it in numbers. And so ultimately, we definitely want to make sure that you're going to get your open rate high. We've seen open rates that are really, really great. We love at Aweber to talk about customers that we've talked to who have open rates that are 40, 50, 60, 70% open rates. But that's somebody who has an audience, figured out how to communicate to that audience, and has them really engaged and really interested, and they open them. They open their emails.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple at 40 to 50, and when that happens, I always go back to that email and I look at the subject line and I look at the content. And I say, okay, what was special about this email? I have to find a way to make this happen again. But what's I know the averages are really low, so I think a lot of people can get discouraged early on, because when you think about it, 25% open rate is good. It's above average, right? But it doesn't necessarily, 25% is a failing grade on a test. So it's kind of a weird cognitive dissonance to go into email marketing and say 25% is a successful email.
Yeah, a couple things to remember there. You're rarely going to see 100%. And you're right. That definitely is a great point, which is, when you're talking to an A student who's got A's all their life and you're telling them 25% is good, they might question that, but at the end of the day, you have to remember that the people that you're emailing may not go and open your email. So think about this. If you are, at work, or even if you're at home and you're on vacation for a week, you might not open your email the entire week. Well, guess what? While you didn't open it, someone sent you an email and has been watching for the open rates. And most open rates happen within the first 48 hours. So ultimately, they might not see your open rate for a week or two until you come back. So, or you might not open it at all. Or you might open it and go, oh, yeah, I was on his website. I already saw this email, and you just click it and delete and you never even open it. Now that's just you being efficient. But as far as the actual open rates, it won't reflect that they ever opened it. So, that's one of those areas where I wouldn't ever expect to be at 100%, but aspirationally, yeah, 40, 50% is a great open rate. It shows that your audience is really engaged. One of the things that we also encourage people to do is split testing. And split testing allows you to, we have two different types of split testing. You can split test your sign-up forms, and that means that your sign-up form that shows up on your website can have multiple messages that show up, and each time somebody loads the page, they'll get a slightly different message. You can specify as many different forms that you want to show up. And so you can test different things. You can test like messages that say like, sign up now and get great information about my beats. Or you could say, sign up now and get your first beat free from me or whatever. And you could see which one of those two messages work better. And we also have split tests on emails that you send out as well. So you can take an email, and so like you were just saying about, you sent an email and you're like, well, what was really good about that? Was it the subject line? You can take an email and say, well, you know what? Which subject line works better? And you can take the email and send it out separately with two different subject lines. And you can say, I want this to go to 50-50, of my audience. I mean, you can pay attention to the open rates individually to see which one gets a better open rate. Or you can say, you know what, I'm not sure if people like that there are images in my emails or not images, or that there's flashier colors or less flashier colors, and you could try each one of those things, and you can see and start to get a sense of, okay, so my customers like images that are flashy, and they like it when I, refer to the town that they're in or something, which is also possible inside of Aweber as well, which is you can put what we call personalization into your emails, which is essentially a series of fields that you can provide, that we'll provide to you, that allow you to personalize the email to speak more to the person. So you're not having to say, hi, person. You can actually say, hi, Joe, hi, Dave, hi, Marie. You can actually put in the name. As long as you capture their name while you're getting them to sign up, you can actually put their name in it. And if you're actually capturing other information, like where they signed up and such, you can actually put that information in there as well. We support the idea of custom fields, and you could put custom fields in your sign-up forms. So as I mentioned previously about questions that you would want to ask, you can ask questions right when they sign up. And you can add that information into your emails as well. You could say something along the lines of, because you said you're interested in hip hop, here are some great things. And so you can put that personalization in the email as well. And so sometimes people like to test, did the personalization work better or not? Or should we, is it better that I put the link in there, or did I put the straight link in there, or should I put something else in there? So those are all great things that you can test with your audience. And you don't have to do it as a 50-50. If you feel like you have a pretty good open rate, like a 40 or 50% open rate, and you're like, well, I don't want to rock that boat, you can send out this test to only 10% of your audience and say, let me just keep trying, because 50 is great, but 60 is better. So if I can find another little tweak to make it 60%, but you don't want to risk, the existing 50% you're getting, then you can do it to a very small percentage of your audience as well, which is another great way of doing it. And the great part about all of this is everything I'm saying, you don't have to do any of this. Going all the way back to where we started, if you just want to get some signups and then send an email every once in a while, that works too. But we're there to help you as you journey through the process further and further, as you want to get more and more involved, more and be able to segment more and more, and really dig into and find ways to get people to engage more with your content, or just be able to enable you to make more sales. Those types of things are possible when you do more and more segmentation, but sometimes you don't need that. Sometimes you just need to capture your audience and just talk to them. And a lot of times that's where we encourage everybody just to get started.
I was given some advice. So when I first started doing email marketing, there are a lot of templates available, whichever service you use, and my whole perception was I want to make my email look professional and look like a email from Target or Starbucks or something. So I had images, and it took a really long time. And then I was given some advice from a producer named Dylan Graham, who said his emails are plain text and very conversational and informal. Mm-hmm. And I was like, maybe I'm approaching this wrong. And I tried being more conversational and actually less like a company advertising a product, and that actually helped me. Is that something that you found? I mean, how are effective emails worded in your experience? Does it depend on the audience?
It definitely depends on the audience. We've heard people, and we've seen articles where people say like, oh, well, don't do images, or do images, or be more conversational or not. And the answer that we've seen in the emails that we send out, so we send a lot of emails out every month, and so we can look at all that data and aggregate it together and really get a sense of what people are doing. And the answer really is it depends on your audience. And so we encourage everybody, as I was just saying, to try different things and see what works for them and see what makes the most sense, because everybody's a little bit different as far as what. So, some people say, oh, well, you should keep your email below this length, like don't make it too long, or you should make other emails that are really short. I will tell you now, I am one of our customers. I am signed up to her newsletter, and her newsletter is long. It's a historical blog style newsletter, and it's a very long email. And I love reading it every time she sends it. And because it's ultimately, she's found the right audience. I was interested in the history things she's talking about. And so that's the piece that it really just depends on your audience and getting a sense of what your audience likes more. And then, as I mentioned, also just asking them questions too. If you're sending out enough content, you can send them a survey and just say, hey, what do you think about this? Would you prefer this? Do you prefer that? Do you think this is better? And get a sense of what they're interested in. Or you could just keep trying different things. The creating a template thing that you mentioned earlier is definitely a big thorny area that we've heard from a number of people. And that's actually why we created a tool called Aweber Smart Designer. So for anybody who's looking for that, you could just Google that, just Aweber Smart Designer. And it actually lets you put in your website. So you can put in your website, you can put in your Facebook page, your Instagram page, whatever you want, your YouTube page. And we will actually design a template for you automatically. Now, I don't mean the system, we will hand do it. No, we built an AI system that will look at all of the images and content that you have and design a system, a template that you can send your email out to have it look professional. Now, we have lots of great professional looking templates. You can use any of those if you want to. But if you want something that is just absolutely on brand and matches your brand, then you use that. All you have to do is provide us your website, and we'll quickly go out to your website, grab all your pictures and grab all your colors off and everything, and we'll make an email that matches your color palette and has all of your branded images and on it. So that's something else. It doesn't work for everybody, meaning some people just like actually, being the artist and doing it by hand. Or again, some people just like a straight text email. But for the ones who really would like just a little bit of pizzazz, a little bit of flair to their template, but really wanted to match their brand, that's another option that people can use as well. And that website is available even without an account. You can just go on and see what it'll look like. And then from there, you can add it into your account, but you could just try it out now without even having an account.
So early on, what are some mistakes that you see a lot of people make when they start email marketing?
I would say that a lot of people think that getting started in email marketing is really difficult and is really hard. And they are very quick to either walk away from it, or they're quick to say, I don't know what I'm doing, and essentially get lost in the process. And so that's definitely one that is an area that we find that is challenging. When people sign up inside of Aweber, we actually start you in an email sequence that tries to help you with a lot of those things, that tries to help you with a lot of the questions that you're going to ask. Because as I mentioned earlier on, there's so many different wordings, and I could talk about, SPF, DKIM, FBL, all these different acronyms and stuff within the email world. But at the end of the day, there are a handful of things just to get you started. Our goal is to do 90% of the work for you, that you only have to do the last 10%, which is essentially putting in the content that you want. And so we're trying to do everything else for you. And so, I think that sometimes people just look at it and say, oh man, emails, that's so complicated, that's so difficult. Well, let's start off simple. Let's just start off, you create a welcome email that welcomes people to your list. And we also have examples of that if you need them. And you also go on your website and just add your sign-up form on your website. And in this case, obviously with Beatstars, go ahead and connect up that integration as well. And that's getting you started.